World Business Practice is a production of Idea Capital Associates, expanding the topical issues of business, management, and governance from God's Word in order to propel positive actions for startups, growth, and sustainability in our marketplace. It is actually insights of the Spirit to explain physical things, mending the broken walls of business. Welcome to the World Business Practice channel. This edition of World Business Practice will be looking at the part 2 of competition in the marketplace. Competition for startups and in existing companies to ensure their sustainability as they journey through business life cycle. This is marketplace competition from God's Word. Hop in and take a ride with me. Since this is the part 2, let's take a little recap of part 1. Our anchor word still remains 2 Samuel chapter 18, 19 to 33 King James Version. In brief, Absalom the king's son was also the leader of the battle against the king. In the battle, the good news of victory against the enemy was made, and this also culminates in the bad news of the death of Absalom, the king's son. Ahimaaz and Cushite were two news providers who offered similar services competitively to meet what was thought as the need of the king in that market. We also take a look at what is competition. Competition remains the provision of similar and alternative services and goods, and consistently provided in order to meet the perceived needs of customers in the market, in a bid to constantly win the purchasing power of the customers in the market. At every stage of product or service, we must bear in mind that somebody is also at that stage with a similar product or service. However, competitive edge can always be gained against new entrants and against existing old market control, and that is through your series of know-how. In the preceding edition, we looked at 4 know-hows of competition in the marketplace. And this know-how includes knowing your product, you should know your market, you should know your compliance requirements of regulatory body, and you should know your competitor. For more details of this, we will advise that you click the link in the description below. However, for this edition, let's conclude this topic of know-hows of competition in the marketplace. Number 5, know your process. 2 Samuel chapter 18 verse 23. But howsoever said he, Ahimaaz talking this time, let me run. And he said unto him, run. Then Ahimaaz ran by the way of the plain and overran Cushite. Behind the knowledge of the product is the need to know the process. This news was quite technical because it involved the integration of good news and bad news, which normally are mutually exclusive and cannot be processed through plain way, the plain way of shortcuts. I am almost sure that Cushite knew that same plain way and would have engaged it if the news was just good news. However, the complexity of the assignment required a way that was not just plain. Number 6, know your industry. 2 Samuel chapter 18, 24 to 26. And David sat between the 2 gates, and the watchman went up to the roof over the gate unto the wall, and lifted up his eyes, and looked, and behold, a man running alone. And the watchman cried, and told the king. And the king said, If he be alone, there is tidings in his mouth. And he came apace, and drew near. And the watchman saw another man running. And the watchman called unto the porter, and said, Behold, another man running alone. And the king said, He also bringeth tidings. Every industry has its peculiarities within which all competitors operate. There is a description of industry operation, and it is expected that all operators of that industry must know the peculiarities associated with our industry and abide by it. In fact, the application of the code of conduct of that industry by all operators of the industry to individuals' advantage is the basis for competition. Ahimaaz ran alone from the battlefield, and the markets knew he had news. Cushite also ran alone from the battlefield, and the market also knew he had news. Number 7, know your brand. 2 Samuel chapter 18 verse 27. And the watchman said, Me thinketh the running of the foremost is like the running of Ahimaaz, the son of Zadok. And the king said, He is a good man, and cometh with good tidings. Within the peculiarity of the industry which separates it from other industries, and by which service or product providers operate, there is need to know and promote a unique brand that cannot be lost in the crowd. Ahimaaz had a brand of good news in the news industry. Number 8, know to close the deal. 2 Samuel 18:31-32. And Ahimaaz called and said unto the king, All is well. And he fell down to the earth upon his face before the king, and said, Blessed be the Lord thy God, which hath delivered up the men that lifted up their hand against my lord the king. And the king said, Is the young man Absalom safe? And Ahimaaz answered, When you have sent the king's servants, and me thy servant, I saw a great multitude, but I knew not what it was. And the king said unto him, Turn aside, and stand here. And he turned aside, and stood still. And behold, Cushite came, and Cushite said, Tidings, my lord the king, for the Lord had avenged thee this day of all them that rose up against thee. And the king said to Cushite, Is the young man Absalom safe? And Cushite answered, The enemies of my lord the king and all that rise against thee to do thee aught be as that young man is. The whole essence of the knowledge of all this is to close the deal, meeting the needs of the customer, thereby creating and maintaining customers for now and the future. Cushite was able to deliver the good news of victory of the war against the king's enemy, led by the king's son, which resulted to the death of the king's son. This news of the death of the king's son was not shared expressly by Cushite, but was deduced and concluded by the king himself from the good news shared by Cushite. He said, The enemies of my lord the king and all that rise up against thee to do thee aught be as that young man is. It is left for the king to say amen or not. lack of knowledge in any or combination of these, either as a startup or a going concern, excludes one in the marketplace. With identifiable gaps, Joab, as the approving regulatory authority, excluded Ahimaaz from the market. Ahimaaz forced himself into the market as a competitor, but knowledge gaps prevented him from closing the deal. When asked about the news of absolute safety, he claimed he didn't know and couldn't say. He and his news as a product were excluded from the market, while Cushite was called to present his news. He did and closed the deal. Practice questions. Our practice questions require practical answers, which you may wish to share with me on dolukaade@ideacapital.com.ng. Number 1. What's your product or service? Number 2. Where is your market? Number 3. What's your compliance requirements? Number 4. Who is your competitor? Number 5. What's your operational process? Number 6. What's your industry and its characteristics? Number 7. What's your unique brand in this competitive industry? Number 8. What's your marketing strategy to closing deals? Again, you may wish to share your answers with me on dolukaade@ideacapital.com.ng. Kindly subscribe to this YouTube channel to get more at the instance of new production. Also like, comment, and share with your loved ones to spread these new narratives for our various startups companies, for growth and sustainability of the existing ones in the marketplace. Thanks, and see you again on World Business Practice Channel.